our broadcast here today. Very excited to have you joining us here for late morning. It's a great day. We're thrilled to have all of you here with us. A couple notes before we get started. We're going to have Brendan Harris here joining us in a few minutes. But next week on May 21st, we're going to have Ellen Berkshire. Ellen is an attorney with Veros Berkshire, and Jeff Lee, who is the Lake Villa Township Assessor in Lake County. And both Ellen and Jeff are going to be discussing valuation of commercial properties in a time of a pandemic. The week after that, on May 28th, we're going to have Wendy Ryerson joining us. Wendy is sits on the IPAI Board of Directors and chairs our Education Committee. She was a longtime instructor for the IPAI before she joined the Board of Directors. And Wendy's going to be with us on, as I said, May 28th. She's going to talk about the CIAO Code of Conduct and our new Ethics Committee, what that is and how that's all working. And so it's going to be a great broadcast. Hope you can join us for that as well. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring Brandon in here. Hey, Brandon. Can you hear me okay?
How you doing?
Great. Hey, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
So we got Brandon Harris with us. Brandon, you are Director of Sales and Marketing, right, for Bruce Harris and Associates.
Correct.
I mean, can you tell us a little bit about like your role within the company and even like what Bruce Harris and Associates do and what kind of services you provide?
Sure. Yeah. So Bruce Harris and Associates was started in 1995 here in Batavia, Illinois. And really, we've cut our teeth. We provide land records and GIS services for local government. But we really have cut our teeth on the parcel side of things since our inception. So we've done a lot in parcel management, parcel conversion, and full countywide parcel mapping. We also do a lot of maintenance for a lot of counties that might not have the resources or staff to do all the real estate transactions in their GIS. So we do that, and then of course we've evolved into the IT side of things too, and support. So a lot of infrastructure support and server and those kind of things. As we all know, GIS is it can get a little into the IT world as you start delving in. So
yeah,
it's not just maps.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes along with it.
Sure is. Yep. So and then my role within the company is basically securing new business, going out and prospecting, managing the relationships in our accounts and building those. We look at, we look at this as kind of a unique field and working with government primarily rather than private industry.
Sure.
It's very relationship based, so we look at this as partnerships because we need so much from the client side to make everything happen. That it's truly a partnership, and so I'm out there, really just working the new territories and making sure that our clients are getting what they need and everything's going. And then of course marketing, new stuff we're doing.
Yeah. And speaking of being out there working, in this current situation that we're in, have you been working from home or you've been?
Yeah. So I'm getting accustomed to the Zoom meetings. My days have gone from being in the car a lot, talking to people and traveling and in planes to Zooming all over the country and doing these remote sessions. So it's basically me going to different rooms in my house trying to hide from my daughter because she thinks that when I'm on a Zoom, it means she needs to come in and say hi. So
right, yeah, I understand that. I think it's pure luck that I haven't had a toddler run into the room yet when we've been doing one of these things.
Of course, some of the challenges and nuances of getting used to working from home for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, which I mean, for me, the part of the reason we do this at 11 o'clock is because at noon every day I have to go make lunch. So
exactly.
Part of the fun. Yeah.
Yep.
So you mentioned a little bit before about all the technology that goes in and with GIS. I mean, can you talk a little bit about technology is always evolving, and how is GIS in the assessor's office? I mean, how's that been changing over the past few years and even in more recent times?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we've seen a lot of technology changes in the industry. Esri obviously being one of the leaders of this industry and really kind of the technology driver. Um, they're constantly putting out new versions of software. So, those who have been paying attention, you have all the pro things going on now. And so there's a lot of activity and people moving towards that. But one of the things they've also done is stood up a lot of applications that people can, go into and stand up pretty quickly with some configuration. Some of them are a little, everything out of the box looks great. Some of them take a little bit of finesse to get it working the way you want, but the capabilities are phenomenal. There's a lot of citizen engagement tools out there that they've opened up, dashboards and stuff. So, the trends that I've seen in technology are more citizen engagement, more open data, and open data is one of the things that you see. And then, of course, in the assessment world, we're seeing a lot of technology and kind of legislation pushing for like field appraisal tools and things to allow connectivity between the office and the field. And so between, like I mentioned, Esri apps like Collector, Survey 123, something that you're seeing in Illinois, those can be challenging in Illinois, particularly because of the township assessors. So it's hard for, counties that have a township assessor, it can be difficult to implement technology from the county level and then have all those assessors embrace it. So there's challenges with that. But one of the things that's, been a really wonderful piece of technology is the change detection tools that are out there, because it saves a lot of time and money. It's allowing counties without resources and budgets to go out and find, properties that they can flag that really have, missing information from the roll, and they can target those. So that kind of technology has definitely, I think, made the assessors' lives easier. And of course, as we're in this COVID, world and adapting and it's allowing offices to, I think the public is willing to change the way they do things right now to a lot of extent. And I've talked to a lot of counties that are kind of taking this as an opportunity to push some of that technology and implement some change, because I think typically people don't like change, but I think the world is open to change right now. So,
right. Yeah. But, it's amazing when you think about it. Even just 2 or 3 months ago, you wouldn't have had so many people so comfortable doing something as simple as having a Zoom meeting or something on Microsoft Teams or whatever service that might be, right? And now it's really becoming commonplace for lots of folks of all different of all different diverse backgrounds and experiences.
Yeah.
And even as you're talking about technology, right? Being able to actually be out in the field and have like a tablet with you or your phone or whatever it might be, and be able to live real time be able to put in actual data that you're working on and not just handwritten notes, right? I mean, it's amazing to think that that's the path we're going down.
Well, and I'm a village trustee in a very small little town that I live in, and I've tried to push some GIS here, because even in a small jurisdiction on a municipal level, our public works information was kind of in one guy's head, and we found challenges when new developments were coming in, not knowing the size of pipes and not knowing what infrastructure was there. And so now we started using GIS and using those tools and simple, applications with Collector and going out. And now when they're out in the field, they can locate, they can make notes. And so it's just, it's really help the planning, decision making, the efficiency, and allowing just even a small village to do things that they were never able to do before. So
right, yeah, really starting to go down some of that smart cities path with some of those things. Just a reminder to everyone, if you have questions, comments that you'd like to make, things you want us to address, go ahead and just make those comments on the broadcast on the Facebook page here, and we'll be sure to get to those as we're talking through things. Brandy, one of the things that has really been interesting, I guess, and encouraging to me and exciting, you've seen in the current situation we find ourselves in with COVID-19, you've seen a lot of health departments partnering with GIS offices and and even assessment offices when GIS is part of that, to do things like to map outbreaks of COVID and to really sort of get down deep into some of that data about exactly where this is happening, within our counties, and provide some robust, public health information out there, using GIS. What other things have you noticed that have been sort of changing specifically with our current COVID-19 situation that we're in?
A lot of things. I mean, it's affecting, I think, life in every aspect, in some ways. But to your point about using GIS even in COVID, I've talked with some of the folks at Esri and some of the folks at the state level, and it seems like what the plan is to, start using GIS to instead of a statewide shutdown, to start targeting, okay, using GIS to see where are outbreaks happening, isolate those outbreaks, and then so using location data to really try and control and help the economy get back on track while also being safe and containing outbreaks. So GIS is a key driver for that, and on the state level, which is really cool. As a GIS nerd, who when I first started in this industry, people were like, "What's GIS?" To see it
Right.
at the forefront of something that's so affecting everybody's lives is and so public is cool. But then even on the smaller scale, what we're seeing is, well, in all honesty, Josh, there's no real consistency.
Yeah.
Every county and jurisdiction from state to state is kind of handling this different.
Right.
So there's no, this is what everybody's doing. I've seen counties that some of them are having, limited staff come in shifts. Some of them are completely working from home, and there's quite a bit of counties that are still completely open and having everybody, not open to the public, but having their entire staff come in and work. So, everybody's experiencing it a little different, but what we're seeing is more of a push for that business continuity. The remote editing, the remote VPN connections, those have been pushed to the forefront, and people are having to adapt their offices to allow data to be, securely edited from remote locations and shared. And so there's challenges there for, the infrastructure behind that and getting that set up for counties, and some of them have to move pretty quickly to do this. So we've seen a lot of that. Of course, what we're doing today, I'm seeing a lot of information out there. This is, I think, my second webinar of the day, and I got more to come. So this has kind of become a new norm. And like you mentioned, it's funny because, not just for work, but I have friends that I wouldn't have in a million years ever been able to convince to jump on a Zoom meeting. Now, I got him call me on Saturday nights being like, let's jump on Zoom and play cards, and it's like, it's just, it's amazing how quickly, things will change and adapt. But yeah, I mean, COVID's definitely created challenges and created, some work, some connectivity and workflow issues for some of these counties, but I think everybody's been pretty resilient and adapting.
Yeah, it's really been impressive. People really seem to be giving folks a lot of, I guess I'd use the term grace, for lack of a better word, as we sort of learn these new technologies and get used to doing business in a different way.
Yeah.
So, if you're there are a lot of large counties, right, who have standalone GIS departments, or they have GIS maybe as part of their IT department in some way. But there are other counties out there where GIS is part of the assessment office, like the entire GIS department, and that county assessor, they are in charge of all the GIS. And not all the county assessors who are out there, that may not have been their bread and butter, as they were coming up through the industry. Maybe they focused on other things. So I mean, for folks who may be in that position, what kind of resources are out there, are available for some of our folks who we have those responsibilities at work, right? But they want to learn more and have a better handle at it and be more knowledgeable about GIS.
Yeah, it's a great question. I actually come across that all the time. You have a lot of times where there might be an elected or appointed official who came from a different background, and GIS might not be their strong point, or they have a really strong assessment side, but they don't, know the GIS world. And as we were kind of mentioning, GIS is complicated. It's a science in and of itself. It's hard for somebody to just say, I'm going to go ahead and just jump in and head first and be good and know GIS. It takes some time and experience. So From a resource standpoint, what we see is obviously there's a lot of education out there, so there's organizations, there's Esri has webinars, through your organization, there's GIS training and courses available. IAAO has some mapping and GIS courses. There's a lot of GIS vendors out there who are doing webinars and doing educational things. And especially in this time, there's an abundance of these things, and most of them are free. So there is a lot of resources out there, but then there's also other opportunities too. And what we see is sometimes you get kind of I feel like there's two types of officials you come across. There's the really hands-on, and they do everything, and they are very into every process. And then there's some that are like, I'm here to take care of the political side of things, to be this figurehead, and I'm gonna let my staff do what they do well. Yeah. And either one of those approaches works. It depends on the office, and you see both of that. But empowering the staff is important too, because those are the ones that are in the trenches day to day. And so I think there's also a lot of resources out there. There's continuing education, there's training, there's conferences. Sending and promoting that continuing education amongst the staff is a resource and an asset for an assessor who comes in and doesn't know that. Because if they have a staff they trust and they know that stuff, then they can allow them to do that part of the job and focus on the other things that they need to do. So, empowering staff is important. I mean, I can tell you almost every office I've been in where there's an elected official or an appointed official who doesn't really, own the GIS side of things, there's somebody in that office who knows it inside out and given that opportunity to learn, the tools they need to learn. And then, of course, the other resource, and we as a GIS company see this. There's small counties that we do the GIS. We really kind of fill the role of a GIS professional within the assessor's office.
Sure.
And there's a lot of companies that can do that role. The big thing I'd say, and it's not to say, go with Bruce Harris, but there's a lot of qualified vendors out there that can do this work. My kind of cautionary thing would be just, make sure you're getting a true GIS professional to come in and assume that role, because there's a lot of companies that might dabble in GIS. There's IT companies that do some GIS, but they're, again, it's a science in and of itself. So it's just really important to make sure that when you're outsourcing that type of work, that you're doing it with the company that understands, not just the IT side of GIS, but GIS in the assessment world.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but to your question and to your point, there's a vast amount of resources, and there's some intro stuff, there's some administrative stuff. And I know one of the things you and I have discussed is creating some content and creating a kind of crash course 101 for assessors in GIS. And I think absolutely there'd be some value in that.
Because that's something we've heard from some of our assessors, especially at the county level, who have come in. They've said, as we just got done talking about, GIS hasn't been the strong point. In my background, I've focused more on the assessment side of things as I've been coming up through the ranks, and I really want to know more. I want more tools. So yeah, it's great that we're having that conversation. We're going to be working to get some of those things out there for
yeah. And as cheesy as it sounds, it's okay. I think if
don't be embarrassed. It's all right.
Exactly. There's people that have spent a long time and a lot of education to understand these things, and it's okay to walk in and be a little overwhelmed and not know all this stuff. Just having a plan on where to start and take it kind of one step at a time. Maybe just learning some of the administrative things are a great way to start off, so what's going on in the GIS in your office, but you don't necessarily have to be building models and learning script. So
right.
There's definitely levels of expertise.
That's right. Well, just to remind everyone, we have Brendan Harris with us today from Bruce Harris and Associates. And if anyone has any questions while we're having this conversation, feel free just to write them down, or I should write them down, type them into the stream here on our Facebook broadcast, and we'll be sure to get those answered for everyone. So Brandon, what kind of new trends are you, in general, are you seeing, coming up in the industry? What opportunities are out there coming down the pike? I hear a lot about Esri's ArcPro. What?
Yeah. So we did that was the webinar we did earlier today, was looking at some of the simple editing in ArcPro. So that's kind of the biggest, new thing in the industry. It's actually, you know, for those who have gotten in and gotten a chance, it's really slick. I mean, Pro has really, I think, you know, simplified the tools. It's a ribbons. So if you're familiar with Microsoft and the kind of flow of Microsoft ribbons and how, you know, those work in the Microsoft applications, then you'll have a little more familiarity with that. For people who've edited and used, you know, desktop for years, it's going to be a little bit of a change. But again, I think there's simplifications and, you know, efficiencies throughout Pro that are going to lend to a lot of value within the offices that are using Pro. You know, we don't have a ton of clients that are editing their data in Pro yet because it's so new, and some of those tools, some of those editing tools have just recently been released in like version 2.5 and things like that. But, you know, from our standpoint, it's there. I mean, it's ready. It's got 98% of the functionality that people need. So pros, of course, one of the big buzzes, you know, you'll see Esri's focus on Pro. But then there's a lot of push on, you know, the dashboards, again, getting back to that kind of, you know, transparency.
Right.
So, I mean, we live in a world where, you know, everything's online, everything's public, and the expectation is that that's what, you know, the citizens kind of expect. They expect to be able to get the information they need from the county online. And you're seeing just more transparency, even with, as we mentioned, some of those field appraisal tools that you're seeing people use. It's lending transparency to that appraisal process, which is helping, you know, in appeals, because then there's a little bit more of a, you know, audit trail of this is what we did, this is when we went out, here's the photos we took, and then they can state the case. And so, you know, transparency within the offices is just, I think, becoming, you know, it's kind of always been a push, you know, the fair and equitable processes and things like that. So there's a lot of technology that's lending to that. There's dashboards, you know. One thing, jumping back to the COVID that we did internally, is there's some COVID dashboards out there that show, you know, how many cases there are, where, and you know, I'm sure you've seen those. John Hopkins has put some out, and there's, as you know, he has them. So there's a lot of GIS, but we just took that data and looked at it in just a different way, and looked at it kind of on a per capita and per 100,000 population. So, you know, obviously if you just look at it in cases, New York is going to come up as the highest concentration because there's the most people. But then we started breaking it down based on population, and you started finding that there was a lot of rural counties that had the highest per capita infection rate. So it was a different way of looking at the data, and it's just using simple GIS dashboard tools. So, you know, I see the trends in using that technology, using more field, you know, using public engagement with stuff like Survey 123. I think that's the trends overall. I mean, you know, as general and high level, you know, as I can get for this short session. But yeah, that's what we're kind of seeing.
Yeah. So sort of, I mean, on the other side, you know, not so much opportunities, but what challenges are you seeing from the folks that you've talked to, whether it's here in Illinois or clients in Florida, wherever that may be? What kind of challenges are you seeing facing the assessment office right now?
The biggest one's going to be budget. You know, a lot of uncertainty with COVID. You're going to see, you know, I think that we'll see some attrition just through, you know, people being out of the office and maybe not coming back, or, you know, I think there's just challenges within the human aspect of the staff and managing staff. And through this, you know, everybody, I've said there's no wrong reaction to, or you know, way people handle the COVID, because everybody has their own feelings about it. And to me, there's, you know, there's no wrong way of handling this. So you're going to have some people that are eager to get back into the office and eager to get going. Then you're going to have some people that are very apprehensive and don't want to, you know, break their quarantine. And I think that's going to create some challenges within the offices of getting staff back up. And then of course, budgets. I mean, I think everybody right now is waiting to see what happens with the economy. I don't think property tax has been hit. You know, the housing market hasn't been hit as hard as you know, the last recession. But you know, there's a lot of uncertainty as the way things go.
And in Illinois, you know, certainly that, you know, sales tax obviously is going to take a hit.
Yes.
You know, at a county level, you know, the PPRT is going to be, you know, definitely impacted, you know, because of the lack of, you know, folks just being out buying things, right?
Exactly.
Which will have a trickle down effect into the assessment office.
It will, and it might take a little longer for that to be felt because you're feeling it on the municipal level first,
Yeah.
but it will trickle into the county. So, we still see a lot of projects moving, and we see stuff getting done, but we've also seen a lot of counties and a lot of cities and municipalities kind of saying, look, we're gonna hold tight.
Right.
We're gonna wait and see what happens, and we're only going on essential things that we have to do right now. So that's going to be a challenge for people going forward, just figuring out what's going to happen. I think there's just, again, a lot of uncertainty right now, so people are kind of being cautious.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, on a little bit of a happier note, so one of the things we haven't publicly announced this yet, so I guess this is a good opportunity. But so the IPAI has been working closely with Brandon and Bruce Harris and Associates to develop a new legal descriptions course for students to be able to take. Of course, that's a key thing, right? So people need to know and be well versed in how to do. Can you just talk a little bit about that and some of the things we're hoping to be able to cover in that course?
Absolutely. So we're really excited to do this. This is something I've been teaching for a long time. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, this gets into our core competencies. This is a world we've always existed in, and we do a lot of, again, the maintenance for clients. So we're always getting crazy deeds, and there's always fun things that come in. But as I've been teaching this course, what I found is that there's just a lot of times, especially as we see, new staff coming in, people who don't have that background. I've gotten into offices and think, these guys are going to know everything. I'm going to bore them. And we start and they're like, nope, let's cover this. Let's go over the basics, just simple things like converting from old deeds that have rods and chains, and understanding those conversions and understanding how to read calls, and, even just the basics of reading legal descriptions and knowing how to read them backwards, and aliquot parts and all these different aspects that come in. And the different types of descriptions. So what we do is really focus on understanding those, understanding how the PLSS breaks down, understanding why and how these things, the grid system we use, the projections we use, those are all types of things that we want to cover and make sure that people understand. And then there's just a lot of hands-on. It's the best, for me, the best way is just kind of roll up your sleeves and do the work and get dirty. So there's a lot of exercises and looking at real deeds.
Right.
So some that are straightforward, or some that, hey, here's an error.
Some that are a little goofy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you get a lot of goofy ones. So being, able to recognize what those errors are, being able to, do the research the right way to resolve those, and figure out what the intent is. Those are the goals. But I think it's something that, people are always kind of looking for a little bit of refresher or some extra help in that. We get people that are processing deeds in the clerk's office that might not really understand GIS, but they're coming across these. And so a lot of times they need a little bit of a refresher, and it's good continuing ed. So we're looking forward to working with you and offering that course and that material. And then, I do some other courses that get into the advanced side of it, the math and things like that. But I know we're going to start off with some basics, and just to, and then we'll probably offer some advanced courses after that as well.
Yeah, we're thrilled about the partnership, and I know we have several folks who are very interested in a new legal descriptions course. So I think it's going to be just a great fit. So yeah, thanks so much for the partnership and working with us on that.
Absolutely, yeah, we're excited.
Well, we must be really thorough, because we haven't had anyone ask us any questions out there. So we must be hitting all the marks that people wanted to know about. So
there you go. Good.
Yeah. Well, Brennan, hey, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciated you stopping by. Is there anything else you want to share with people before you leave?
No, I just want to say thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out at conferences, and me being a guy who's on the road, I can't wait to get back out, and see people. So we want to do it safe, and we want to make sure that everything is ready to go. But I'm anxious to get out and see people. So for those of you on here, we can't wait to see out and about. Hope everybody's being safe and doing well, and look forward to getting back to life as normal.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple quick reminders for folks before we go. Next week, Ellen Berkshire of Barrows Berkshire and Jeff Lee, the Lakeville Township Assessor, are going to be joining us to talk about um, uh, commercial assessments in this time of pandemic that we're currently experiencing. May 28th, Wendy Ryerson is going to be joining us to talk about the CIO Code of Conduct and the IPAI's Ethics Committee and how all that functions and what that looks like. A couple quick scheduling notes for everyone. The Southeast Conference, which takes place in Effingham, was originally scheduled to be the first week in June. That has been moved to November. And we have added a property valuation as a workshop in Madison County in August. And all those dates are on the website. You go to ipaiEducation.org. You go to the course schedule, and they're all right there with all the new dates. So that's it, Brennan. Hey, thanks again for being here today. Appreciate you being part of the late morning, and thanks again for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
You bet. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody here next week, but also again in person very soon. Take care.
Thanks.